My home is here in Mississippi. I've lived in many other places: New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago. But this place defines me. I just know I'm home. My parents lived right here on this land. You can't understand me without understanding where I was created. Every religion has a creation story. So, what do those stories tell us about who we are and where we came from? Jewish, Christian, and Muslim traditions trace us all back to Adam and Eve. The book of Genesis says they came from a place called Eden, near the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, somewhere in the ancient Near East. No one has yet found the location of the Garden of Eden, though many have tried. But why do we want to find it? Well, the reason is interesting. The Garden of Eden doesn't just represent the beginning of humanity. It is the beginning of our conversation with God. And finding out when and where that took place would tell us an awful lot about who we are. So, I'm off to Jerusalem. This is one of the oldest cities in the world. There's evidence of people living around here for more than 7,000 years. Today is the religious center of the Jewish world. It was here that Genesis was first written down, about 2,500 years ago. Archaeologist Jody Magnus is taking me to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where there is a little-known link to the Garden of Eden. So this is it. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Many Christians believe this is the site where Jesus was crucified and buried. But another ancient tradition says it's also the burial place of Adam.
The area that we're walking into here is underneath the rock of Golgotha, which is the rocky outcrop on which Christians believe Jesus was crucified. And this is called the Chapel of Adam. There's a tradition which goes way back in Christianity, which connects this spot to Adam, the first man. When Jesus was crucified on top of the rock above us, his blood flowed down through a crack in the rock, and Adam, the first man, lay buried underneath. And when Jesus' blood flowed onto Adam, Adam was then resurrected.
Almost 1,700 years ago, when Roman Emperor Constantine built the church, he also made a shrine around this crack in the rock of Golgotha, the Chapel of Adam. But doesn't this contradict that section of the Bible that says that the Garden of Eden was located somewhere near the Euphrates and the
Tigris?
Tigris.
Well, the version of the story that ended up in the book of Genesis seems to place the Garden of Eden somewhere in Mesopotamia, which is the area of modern Iraq.
So how do you think the tradition of Adam gets to be here in Jerusalem?
Well, I think Adam probably does have a very special connection with Jerusalem. The Garden of Eden, or paradise, becomes conceptualized as a spot where the presence of God dwells. In early Judaism, in the time of Jesus, the presence of God dwelled in the temple on the Temple Mount, and hence Jerusalem was conceived of as Eden, as paradise.
So you're saying Eden could also be a metaphor?
Right, well, yes, of course, Adam was the first human. And in Hebrew, the word Adam, Adam, just means man. Human.
Hold up. You just said something now. The word just means man.
Yes.
Adam.
Yes. Also, the name Adam, if you take off the A and you just leave D-A-M, in Hebrew, dam, that means blood. Or if you add an A-H to the end, Adama means land.
Land itself, it's your blood.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Could the story of Adam and Eve's expulsion from the garden also have metaphorical meanings? Adam and Eve lived in a land of plenty. But when they ate the fruit of the forbidden tree, they were cast out and forced to work the land. In other words, they became the first farmers. Göbekli Tepe traces the birth of religious worship back more than 11,000 years. Long before there were Muslims, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, people came together to talk, eat, worship. It could be that the driving force behind our greatest achievement, civilization, was God. But today, we no longer share one story of creation. We live in a global society made up of many different cultures, and science has given us a new perspective on creation. It even claims to know the ultimate secret of our cosmic origins. Can science and religion agree on creation? The story of our creation has puzzled me ever since I was a boy. If God created the universe, who was around to create God? When I got older, I heard scientists had found evidence of the Big Bang. According to that theory, the entire universe burst out of a single point in an instant of fiery creation. Now that science knows so much about our cosmic origins, what place is there for religious belief in the beginning? I want to know about the Islamic story of creation, so I'm going to Cairo. One of the largest and oldest cities in the Muslim world. Islam has deep roots in science. Muslim astronomers were charting the heavens soon after the time of Muhammad. I hadn't noticed that before. What is it?
This is the minaret of Al-Hussein Mosque.
Harvard historian of Islam Ahmed Ragab is taking me to one of Cairo's spiritual centers, the Al-Hussein Mosque.
So they start by forming lines all facing Mecca. And the lines are all closed. You shouldn't have any kind of gaps.
Space between?
Yeah.
In other words, it just toe to toe. Right. Muslims come here every day to give thanks to God for all that He creates. And afterwards, some head just around the corner to the 2.5-century-old El Fishawi coffee shop. Speak to me about the Islamic concept of creation.
In Islam, the beginning of the story starts with this massive cloud of smoke, from which the heaven and earth are pulled from inside the smoke. And then the earth after that gets formed into what it looks like before the beings are created.
Interestingly, that is very cosmic.
Right.
You think right away about the clouds of dust in the cosmos that form worlds.
So this idea is about these massive clouds and things coming out of them is actually very powerful in a lot of mythological traditions around the world. And it is part of this Islamic narrative of creation.
In Islam, the moment of creation exists alongside the scientific view of Earth's formation. Now I'm curious about science and the Judeo-Christian creation story. So I've come to Rome, where Michelangelo's breathtaking Sistine Chapel ceiling depicts the book of Genesis. In 6 days, God creates light, makes the sun and the moon, and creates man. I've come to speak with the Pope's chief science representative, Monsignor Marcelo Sanchez Sorondo. Now, you are the Chancellor of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences.
Exactly.
When did that get started and why?
In 1603.
1603.
And three, yes. And the leader of the first generation was Galileo. And the idea is to have a new academy to develop the scientific reason of things.
So we have the two different approaches to the idea of creation. There was the book of Genesis, and then there's the Big Bang.
The Big Bang is not creation, exactly, because we don't know what was before the Big Bang.
My question exactly.
And for this reason, creation is nothing to do with the Big Bang. The other thing is that the idea of the Bible is not a scientific idea of creation.
In other words, science can't prove it or disprove it.
Exactly. We say in the Bible is the idea of creation, but in the theological sense of creation, not the scientific sense of creation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Catholic Church no longer sees the book of Genesis as a literal description of creation. In fact, the first scientist to propose the Big Bang, Georges Lemaitre, was a priest and a member of the Pontifical Academy of Science. So how exactly does belief in God fit into modern cosmology? So this incredibly high vaulted ceiling, just like reaching for heaven.
Yes, in a certain sense. It's a representation of heaven, of a theological heaven.
I'm meeting with Father Giuseppe Tanzellaniti, a scientist at the Vatican Observatory. I'm very, very fascinated by you. You're an astronomer, and you are a holy man.
Yes, my field of study was radio galaxies, quasars, extragalactic objects. And it was another kind of heaven. I remember that when we take a galaxy spectra, I used to pray during the waiting for the spectra and to say, God, I thank you for this marvelous universe that you gave us.
There must have come at some point a question for you about the nature of creation. We think that there's like a big schism between the biblical sense of creation and the other one is the scientific sense of the Big Bang, and it's all very different.
Creation, from a theological point of view, is perfectly compatible with the Big Bang, because you need always a first cause. God, the Creator, is outside space-time, is before any time. So the act of creation is an everlasting act, because creation is the way in which God continuously holds the universe.
For Giuseppe and others like him, cosmology not only allows room for divine creation, it offers new ways to understand God as the master of space and time. I like what Father Giuseppe says about creation as a continuum, that it didn't begin and end with the Big Bang, that it is God's ongoing activity, which includes evolution. I think what he was saying is God does not exist outside space and time. God is space and time. The idea that creation is ongoing sounds like a new one, but it's not. But there is one culture that gives thanks for its creation every day. And I'm in Varanasi, India, to see it. India is home to 1 billion Hindus, the third largest faith in the world. It has many gods and many creation stories. One of the best known centers around the river that gives them life, the Ganges, or Ganga.
Morgan, now we are at the river Ganga. Ganga, the holiest of the holy rivers and the center of Hindu universe. It only exists because it is the sacred, the pure, the holy from the heavens.
It only exists because
You believe.
you believe it's
Yes.
true. Okay. I love that. Historian Benda Paranjape takes me to a shrine to Ganga.
Careful.
Yes. Ganga is not only a river, but a goddess.
So the idea is that you bow down even before you enter the shrine, but not for a short person like me. And then you come to a place where you see Mother Ganga.
What's she holding in her upper left hand?
She's holding a lotus. That
A
is supposed
lotus.
to be a mark of purity.
Right.
Because lotus emerges out of mud, but it does not take any stains of mud.
In the beginning, Hindus believed Ganga flowed in the heavens, but she was held captive by the creator god Brahma. Then Brahma decided to send the river Ganga down to earth.
But there is one problem, that Ganga has got such mighty force, and if she comes on the earth will drown.
So the god Shiva blocked Ganga's fall, gathering her waters in the locks of his hair.
So Shiva just opened one lock of his hair and the Ganga flew. She's the mother because she gives birth to everything.
This holy river came from the river in heaven that we call the Milky Way.
They say that Milky Way actually is a reflection that you see in those waters which are still beyond.
Scientists have dated the universe to about 14 billion years, best we can figure. Hindus have it at what?
Hindus do not believe in one creation. They say that these are cycles of creation.
Okay.
And the primordial creation could be something like 8.6 billion years ago. Actually, this whole creation myth is very difficult to comprehend because we say that gods like Brahma has created the universe, but then they ask a question, who created Brahma?
Right.
And then
Always a question, though. Creation happened and then the gods happened.
they say that the sages, when they were in their trance, they got that revelation that how the creation happened. But since it is in that level of consciousness, you and me, we commoners will not understand it. So we believe that it's beyond us.
The Hindu philosophy is not to try to solve the riddle of creation that happened long ago. It's to give thanks every day for the forces that allow us to be here and continue to sustain us, including the river Ganges.
You can come, little Cruz. We are going to see the ritual, which they call it Aarti.
Aarti.
Yeah, it means showing the lamp to the god.
The Aarti has taken place on the banks of the holy river every night for hundreds of years.
The prayer is that, God, you are like my father, you are like my mother. My whole existence is you.
My whole existence is
You. I'm just like a shadow
I'm a vessel.
that contains you.
I contain.
That's wonderful.
7 priests offer all the elements to Ganga: water, air, earth in the form of flowers, and the most important of all, light, which represents our souls. As the ceremony closes, people gather at the water's edge to place the light of their own souls in a tiny vessel.
This is our individual way of offering ourselves to the river, and a candle that takes our soul to the river.
It's the light of my soul.
My soul, and it says that you take it wherever you think is good for me.
The Hindu version of creation appeals to me. It says the gods weren't even around at the original creation. They have this great saying from the Rig Veda about the beginning. There was neither non-existence nor existence. It's saying the idea is beyond human definition, beyond human intellect. Just accept it.
Where did we come from? A man and a woman banished from paradise who began to work the land. Hero twins planting the corn they need to start a civilization. A great river that gives life to an entire people. These ideas about where we came from are the oldest stories we have. They are shared words and distant memories that form the glue of our civilization. We don't all share the same creation story. We all come from different places. But all of us, whatever we believe, can share in one thing: the wonder and gratitude that we are here at all.
It is my fervent hope that people will open their hearts and minds and see that our beliefs don't have to divide us. They have the power to unite us, to allow us together to achieve remarkable things. As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end.